What is shaking, everybody? You are looking live at my backyard. I had to do that because I got one of my former partners on. Just a living legend, a man who's pretty much seen it all when it comes to the world of sports, and it's always fun to talk to him, especially when it comes to college football, college sports, and maybe a little bit of gambling on the side, or maybe a big helping of gambling. I'm not sure. The one, the only Brent Musburger. Brent, what's going on?
Hey, Mr. T, how you doing, my man? Happy
How are you?
holidays, lad. Been
Happy
good, you
holidays to
know.
you. Do you like our we get the snow and the Christmas
Yeah,
lights
kind of.
around the screen?
I left Montana because there was too much snow. I'm down here in Vegas right now, but this is good for the
Yeah,
holidays to have the lights and
absolutely.
the snow.
We love it. We get the little Christmas tree up in the left-hand corner.
Beautiful,
We
beautiful.
are good to go. Well, how you been? I haven't seen you much lately. I know you've been
I
back and
know.
forth between Vegas and
Yeah,
are
Montana.
you still doing Montana? You still doing stuff with Beeson at all?
I tape some openings and closes and intros, but nothing on a regular basis. You know what I mean? Tommy, they still got that wonderful studio down at the Circa,
Yep, yep.
and they're still doing great. The programming's better than ever. They're back on Sirius XM, which is uh, which is wonderful for them
Yep.
because there's a lot of truck drivers out there moving our products around. They like to gamble occasionally on the football.
Exactly. Now you saw this, and for those that don't know, Beeson, correct me if I'm wrong. Vegas Sports and Information Network.
Right. Right.
Correct. Now
Exactly.
you were one of the first ones. I know the Action Network has come along, but you guys were one of the first ones to kind of see where gambling was going. See there was going to be legalized. See there was going to be a market for this where people wanted information. They just didn't want to throw their money down without having some kind of information about what they were doing. Take me back to the early days, because you and I, look, we're in the same pool. You're not in it anymore. You're not in the FBL anymore. I'm in the FBL, and sad to say, Brent, it's a very off year for me. Very, very off year for me. I'm not even competing this year. It's very, very sad. But you were in that pool for a while. We both like to gamble.
Absolutely.
Where did the gambling come from for you? Like, where did the kind of the desire to gamble and the interest in gambling come from?
I was a newspaper man in Chicago, and I used to frequent some of the joints where the boys hung out. And
Yeah.
they were always talking about the numbers involving the
Yep.
game, especially football. And it was a guy that would come in, and I'd watch him write down things, and guys would peel off bills, and off he'd go. He was a local bookmaker,
Yeah.
at the time in Chicago. And then I tell you the truth, I started to travel with baseball teams. And when I would go to the West Coast, the Cubs would go out there and play Dodgers, Giants. I'd always stop off in Vegas for a few days. Met Jimmy the Greek there, and
Yep.
the old betting institutions, the Rose Bowl and Barbary Coast and places like
Barbary
that. So
Coast. Yeah.
so I got to tell you an anecdote about the Barbary Coast. Almost every Thursday, a Greek would say, "Come on, Muss. We're going over to the Barbary Coast." I said, "Well, Jimmy, we're sitting here in the Rose Bowl. Why don't you make your bets right here?" No, no. The Barbary Coast pays me on a tie on my parlay card. These guys don't. I got to go to the Barbary Coast. So ties win for the Greek was the
Ties will
reason why we always went. And then, of course, obviously, he came to the NFL today. And,
Yeah.
I not that everybody gambles, although we're looking at the numbers here recently. I'm not so sure that everybody doesn't gamble, but
I know
but
exactly.
people are interested in that, regardless of whether you get a position. And when a game
Yep.
is on, hey, gee, what's the spread? What's the? I asked artificial intelligence. I've used the Google for the last year to answer questions when I want a quick answer, and I asked. This is the first time that in a Big Sky game in Bozeman, Montana, in the playoffs, FCS, first time an Ivy League team has gone to Bozeman.
Yeah.
Yale's going in to play Montana State on Saturday. So I asked AI, I said, what's the spread on the game? And honestly, I didn't see it on DraftKings or anybody yet. And they came back and they said it's very high. It's between 20 and a half and 23 and a half. I mean, artificial intelligence knows right away what the numbers are going to be. I said, so that's great. And so I've just always been curious. I wouldn't say I'm an expert. I got eliminated like
Yeah,
everybody else in Survivor here at Circa, which is a great contest, $1,000 an entry,
yeah.
and I got knocked out. And gee, I think Tommy, there's only about 44 entries left out of the
Wow.
19,000 that we had. Thanksgiving
Jeez.
wrecked everybody. I mean, everybody had saved
Yep.
let's say maybe the Chiefs at going to the Cowboys, or maybe Black Friday, Philadelphia hosting Chicago. And so when the dogs sweep the card, on that week going into the weekend,
Yep.
that just knocked hundreds and hundreds of entries out. But it's kind of a fascination, a little bit of a hobby, and I get a kick out of it.
Don't you think it's I think it's harder now than it ever was because there's so much information. The lines are so much tighter than they used to be. You used to be able to pick up edges, and I'm like you. I think I do okay, but I'm not that great. I just kind of
Right.
dabble in it. But it seems harder and harder as the years go on because of all the information and the algorithms and all this stuff. It's just harder to find edges where maybe it was a little bit easier to find information that everyone might not know just by reading a bunch of newspapers. Now that doesn't even work anymore.
Yeah, I think there's one other thing, Tommy. I think the pool of athletes in every one of these sports is much deeper and better than it ever was. Okay. In other words, less of a difference amongst these teams. I mean,
Yeah.
let's just look at the Dallas Cowboys for a second. Okay. Everybody was jumping all over Jerry Jones, the owner, when he traded Micah to the Green Bay Packers, and he said, we've got to stop the run. And they were one of the worst teams defensively in the league, okay, until the trade deadline. And they were able to pick up Keenan Williams from the Jets, defensive
Yep.
tackle, and they got Wilson, linebacker from the Bengals. And listen, they've been one of the better teams against the run since Williams showed up. In fact, on Thursday night, I was just looking at one of my contest plays. uh, I'm going to take I'm going to take the Cowboys with the field goal because Detroit leans on the rush. They're averaging 138 yards a game. Okay, and the
Mm-hmm.
Cowboys lean on the pass, 271 a game. Now, listen to this: since Williams joined the Cowboys, they are giving up only 70 yards a game against the run. They were giving up about 100 and a half. Almost, he cut it in half with the changes they have made. And so, because the Lions rely so much on those, they got two great running backs. Don't get me
Yeah.
wrong; they can still get loose. But I'm going to take that dog on Thursday night and see if the Cowboys can keep her. So I guess a long-winded way of
Yeah.
saying that the depth of athletes out there, fantastic. I mean, I've never seen anything like, and it's hard for quarterbacks. I mean, you can't play against these defensive lines anymore. I mean, they're on
Yeah.
top of you.
No, I,
So
I absolutely agree. All right, let's switch college football a little bit.
sure.
Playoff talk.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
let's start with like I said, a subject nobody's really touched on. Lane Kiffin going from Ole Miss to LSU. I mean, I'm like, good Lord, I couldn't pick up my phone without a Lane Kiffin story. Lane Kiffin loves Lane Kiffin more than anybody should love Lane Kiffin. Like, I mean, it's unbelievable how much this guy loves himself. But be that as it may, let me ask you, let me start from the back and work my way forward. If you're Ole Miss, do you allow this guy to coach after he takes the SU job?
Absolutely, positively not, because of
Yeah.
today's world. Now we know first of all that coaches who are moving on are going to try to take some of the assistants with them. That doesn't change.
Yep.
That's been going
Yep.
on for years. However,
Yep.
what has changed is how easy it is for athletes to transfer from one school to another with the promise of a bigger payday. Okay,
Yep.
you do not let him inside the Ole Miss locker room. I am Listen, he wants to take the job at LSU. I got no problem with that. I know
Yep.
Lane Kiffin very well. I like him. Yeah, he's about Lane. And I'm gonna tell you a good anecdote here in a minute, but no, Ole Miss was absolutely positively right. Should not be anywhere close to that playoff game with Ole Miss. God bless him. Turn him into a winner. Thanks a lot, and we'll see you down the road the next time Ole Miss plays LSU. Okay, I'll tell you a story. It's a
Okay.
great story. So Kiffin and Sarkisian are both assistant coaches at USC under Pete Carroll. Okay. And that's when I was doing a lot of college games for ABC and ESPN. I was assigned to a lot of them because USC was so dang good back in the day. Okay. True story. Al Davis, then alive up in Oakland, decides, I like this offense down at USC, this Sarkisian kid. He was a pretty good quarterback at BYU. I'm going to take a shot. So he sends one of his minions down to Los Angeles to arrange for Sarkisian to come up to Oakland for an interview with Al. Okay. Well, when the worker from the Raiders shows up, Sarkisian's out recruiting, but Lane Kiffin happens to be in the office. When the dude walks in, sits down, introduces himself, and what can I do for you? Well, we'd like to talk to Sarkisian, and then he tells Kiffin that Al is interested in the interview. And Kiffin goes, well, why not interview me? I'm as important to this team as he is. So help me God. That's how Lane Kiffin got taken up to Oakland and hired and quickly fired by Al Davis. Okay. And Al was actually looking for Sarkisian. I mean, that's a typical Lane Kiffin story. Why not me?
Yeah.
And off they go. Now, the one thing that Kiffin's going to find out, it is harder at LSU than he thinks it is. Okay. That is a much more demanding fan base
Yeah.
than Ole Miss was. Okay, he kind of operated a little bit under the radar, put together a good team, had some good quarterbacks down there and everything. So, you know, I wish him well. But to go back to your question, under no circumstance should Ole Miss have allowed him to coach for how many playoff games Ole Miss is involved in. I mean, it's as simple as that. He can't come in and raid the cupboard after he said he's leaving the cupboard, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Well, he's going to find out probably pretty quickly that while he didn't have to take calls from the governor of Mississippi, he's going to have to take those calls. He's going to have to take those calls in Louisiana.
You better believe it, baby. That governor's on top of everything. Always has been. That's always the way that state is run. And he's going to find that out in a hurry.
Do you think, because I don't know, everybody's saying, well, they're going to win a national championship, and they could. I mean, it's a great institution as far as football goes. Great recruiting, great history, great resources. I mean, they have as good a chance as anybody. Alabama, Ohio State, all those schools. But he's never won as a head coach. I mean, he's a really good assistant, but I'm not sure. I said this, Brent. I go, God, it seems like there's a lot of noise about Lane Kiffin for what Lane Kiffin has actually accomplished, which is significant, but not so much so that you would think everyone would be just pawing at this guy.
Oh, absolutely agree with you. Let me go to Nick Saban,
Got
who I knew well at Michigan State, and then followed him to LSU. Okay. And we had unbelievable success before he went for the short time to the Miami Dolphins. But I had a long discussion with him about Louisiana down in Baton Rouge, getting ready for a game. And Nick said, Brett, the first thing I did was I closed the border. And I said, what do you mean? He said, I mean that the top prospects, and he said, we've got them throughout the state. I made sure that they were coming to LSU. He said, that was my first focal point. Okay. Well, things have changed dramatically since then. Okay. And the biggest change is the fact that Texas and Oklahoma are now in the SEC. Okay.
Hmm.
All right. Now, oh, yeah, that opens up Texas a little bit. No doubt about it. However, it opens up LSU to the Longhorns in particular, who come across that very tight border over there. You have a more difficult time hanging on to all the top recruits in Louisiana. I'm sure that Coach Kelly found that that was the case down there because it's a much tougher, and recruiting is completely different now. Okay,
Yeah.
it's how many dollars are behind this? I mean, NIL has changed every. That's why Saban got out. I mean, I don't think there's any
Yeah.
question about that. Okay, so what he first has to do is to make sure the alums stay loyal, and because it'll take him a little bit of time to get in the groove and everything. His schedule's more difficult simply because of those two teams that were added over there. Okay, it is hard. It is hard to compete regularly. Georgia, kind of all by itself, in the number one. If I had to pick one state that I was recruiting football players out of, I would take Georgia right now. Okay, yeah, Texas is big and vast, and so is California. But the quality that comes out of Georgia every year is unbelievable over there, and they've done a great job of keeping kids in the state. You're going to find that it's not as easy, and he's going to find that the fan base in Baton Rouge is impatient. They're not like the people at Ole Miss that go party out there
Yeah.
and have a great time in a good city and that. So we will see what happens. But to your point, for somehow he talked his way into becoming the number one target, and it just the media the media took it from there, and we'll see how he does.
Well, Jimmy Sexton. Jimmy Sexton got. I mean, that guy's good. You give him credit.
Yes,
He's
it.
love him or hate him. He's like Scott Boras, Major League Baseball. I mean, he's just really good, and he does a great job for his clients. Does he win a championship there in 5 years or within
Well,
5 years?
you have a chance. Let me just say that you've got a chance. Okay,
Yeah.
I don't want to eliminate that. Uh, there are so many things make it problematic. Uh, it's not as easy for the LSU or the Alabamas, or even the Georgias, to win championships today as it was 10 years ago, before the whole face of college football changed. I mean, you take certain schools out there. Clearly, Ohio State has some boosters with deep pockets. Clearly, BYU has some, and they're showing it in football and basketball.
Yeah.
Okay. Michigan has rich donors. Okay. Duke is going to be powerful in basketball. Hey, listen, your Arizona is doing pretty well.
Yeah,
There's
they
some
are. Yep.
people down there funding the Tucson school. So let me just say, you have a chance, but it's not guaranteed like it might have been in the old days. Okay,
Yeah.
this whole landscape has changed dramatically, and the school that I bet on and made the most money this year, honestly, was Texas Tech,
Yeah.
because I followed the money. But a great story, great story. Everybody's seen the Crabtree pulling loose that I was doing a game with Herbie and
Yep.
winning the game over the Longhorns. One of the offensive linemen in that game for Tech was Campbell. I think his name was Campbell. Anyway, he and a friend, after they graduate, probably with degrees in engineering, they struck oil over in West Texas. Okay, and so he's probably a billionaire today, and he's sitting around with some of his buddies one night complaining about how poorly the defense had played or the offensive line. And one of his friends had took a shot of beer and looked across the table. You got so damn much money, go out there and buy a defense. Well, hell, he did. It's a $7 million defense, and they run rampant. It'll be interesting to see where they finally get seated. I think the committee likes them. So they won
Yeah.
more games by 21 points than any college team. So like I said, what I've done in terms of college, I just followed the money.
Yeah. No, I'd take Texas Tech at 12-1 to win the national championship. I think
So absolutely.
they got a legitimate shot. All right, before we move on to the playoffs, let me put it to you this way.
Sure.
Within 5 years, Kiffin wins a championship. Yes is plus 120. No is minus 130.
Oh, take the minus 130.
You're gonna take the no. Okay.
Yeah, you take the no. Yeah.
No, I never said I never said I
If it
was a good
was
line
paid,
setter.
if it was paying plus 250,
Okay.
I might think about it.
Okay.
You got to
All
pay
right,
me
let's
a
look.
higher price than it.
All right, let's look at this year's entrance. Ohio State. Well, let me ask you this first, because
Hmm.
Steve Sarkisian is lobbying for his team, and rightfully so. And I get it. I mean, they played the game in Ohio State. They didn't need to play. They played them tougher than anybody who's played them. Only lost by 7, outgained them 2-1, and then lose to the Florida was the one that really got him, going down to Florida and losing. He says they should be in. Of course, Sarkisian never says who they'd replace, which is a little you kind of got to do that. You can't just say put us in without taking somebody out. Does Sarkisian have a case? Should Texas be in the field?
He should go and pray for the next few nights that Duke upsets Virginia. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And you got a major issue because do you take Duke in? They've won the conference, you know? Uh, so I would say because that might hurt Miami's chances on the end too. I would hope for
Yeah.
chaos in the ACC. That would be number one. Number two, I would hope for Texas Tech to rout BYU. All right. If you get those two things going for you, you can eliminate some of that competition around that 10, 11, 12 spot. I would suggest honestly that they do away with the group of five. That what they do with the group of five is they have their own playoff. Okay. And I would make a nice bowl location for their championship game. All right. The Tulanes and the James Madisons and Texas Tech, the Texas State, those schools have their own
Yeah,
little
North
playoff.
Texas. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And then you just let the big boys battle it out in the 12. I I thought it was a good idea for a while, but that group of five's not going to win that playoff. They're not coming. They get an invitation to get their ass whipped someplace, and I don't
Yeah.
think that's a way to run a tournament, to tell you the truth.
I
So I'd
agree with you,
eliminate
Brent.
that.
I'm with you. I used to think it was cool because it was like the NCAA tournament where David gets a shot at Goliath. But in the
Right.
NCAA tournament, it's different in basketball than it is in football for
Absolutely.
obvious reasons. But Butler ain't showing up in the finals. VCU ain't going from the first four to the final
For
four.
sure.
I forget. There's a couple other teams that have done it. LaSalle may have done it. I'm not sure, but it's different. So I kind of lean with you, even though the first game is kind of fun. Can James Madison do something? Can Boise do something when they're really really good? But that would help. And I tell you something they should do, and they'll never do: get rid of automatic berths for conference champions. That is something that they don't really need. But the problem is, then the conference championship games don't. Nobody wants to watch them, and they can't make the money
Exactly.
off the conference championship games.
Exactly. Exactly. So that's why they're going to stay in place. Also, the power being wielded, Tommy, by Big Ten SEC. They're not going to
Yeah,
allow that to happen. I do applaud the SEC for going to that additional conference game.
yeah,
I think that the public appreciates that. You get more good attractions, and I don't think you're going to lose that many teams out of the playoffs. Obviously, you and I know that the best playoff would be 16 teams. Okay, you
yeah,
take your top 16 teams, and you start off with 8 home games. I kind of liked, even though as I recall last year, all the home teams won fairly easily.
they did.
I thought it was a great attraction. I enjoyed it. I enjoy watching the home crowds in college football. Then you move on to the bowls and obviously on to the championship. So we'll see what they come up with. Yeah, certainly, what they're doing is a big step in the right direction. A
Yeah,
question about that. Yeah,
yeah. Well, I look at it this way: the playoffs, even though they were blowouts last year, it's better than watching those same teams play in a bowl game
absolutely.
where 13 guys are missing because there's
Yeah,
no
they're going to the NFL.
there's no
Yeah,
pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. It's like, why am I playing
exactly.
in this meaningless bowl game? Now, I agree 16 is a perfect number, but in college football, I've always said this: we don't need any more than 4. I mean, until a team that's 9, 10, 11
Interesting.
wins a national championship, I'm going to stick with the top 4 teams. Those are the ones that are going to win the national championship. I don't know why, but football is so top heavy that it's
It
just
is.
hard to beat those teams.
No, no, you're absolutely positively right. But as a gambler, I'd like to have 8 games. You know what I'm
No,
saying? I like it. I mean, I like those 14
yeah,
parlays. Okay.
I get it. I'm with you, Brent. I'm with you. More games, the merrier, baby. All right, let's talk a little bit about the teams. Ohio State's the number one seed. Indiana, they both play this weekend. Indiana 4.5 point favorite, or 4.5 point underdog. I might try Indiana in that game. I don't know how. I think they'll be motivated, but both of them are in the playoffs, so it's not like a do or die type game, which brings kind of an interesting dynamic into the equation. But who do you think actually has a chance to win the national championship this year?
Well, certainly Ohio State.
Yeah.
I think we would all start with that, and
Yep.
I would add Georgia. Been there, done that.
Mm-hmm.
Can flat play. I have to tell you, I've been very impressed with the coaching job at Notre Dame. I didn't know whether he would be successful when he replaced Kelly. He'd been done a terrific job, and
Yeah. Freeman's done great.
that running back's great. So
Yeah.
I would leave them in there. Be perfectly honest, I haven't watched Oregon as much as other people have, so I really don't know about them. Alabama sometimes plays like a champion and sometimes plays like a dog. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm just not quite sure what to make of them. Uh, Turns out that Texas A&M was probably a little fraudulent, so I don't think I would put them on the list. The Ohio State Indiana game is very interesting from a lot of standpoints. Let's put them both in the group.
Yep.
But how far does the loser fall in the rankings? Do they not get a bye? If they get blown out, they fall out of that top four spot. So I think from that also, listen, there's another way. I'm glad you asked me about that game. Another way to bet that game, and that is to watch the first half, watch how it's going, and bet the quarterback who's ahead and doing well to win the Heisman. Okay. Those
Ah.
two, okay, are the betting favorites around the country and the different pools and the poly markets of the world that are seeing an awful lot of action. And so those are your two guys. Mendoza took a lead when he beat Penn State in the last minute in Happy Valley.
Yeah.
But the youngster from Ohio State saying he made a great move in the game at Michigan. I mean, he played very, very well after throwing an early interception. But the Wolverines, it's true in college, and it's true in the NFL. When you get down there, especially as an underdog, you better score touchdowns and not kick field goals
Yep.
because you're not winning. And that's
No.
the way it is.
Steve Young told me this many years ago. He goes, every time we kicked a field goal, I felt like we got that much closer to losing.
Yep. He's 100% right.
And it
100% right.
made perfect sense to me when I said it. I go, I never really thought about it in those terms, but it makes sense. And so that's interesting. I wouldn't have thought of that. I wonder how many books will still have that Heisman line up during that game, because I
That's a
think
good question.
I think you're exactly right. If you're watching that game to kind of see how it's going, and you can jump on those Heisman odds before the game ends or before they take it off the
Absolutely.
board. No, I like
Exactly
that.
right. You're
I like that.
exactly right.
That's why we have you on, Brent. You're like, see things that we don't see. You
Why
see
should I
things that
give
we
away the
don't
trade
see.
secrets? What's going on here?
All right, let's jump to the
Uh,
NFL. Let me get your thoughts on
sure.
the Niners, what they've been doing this year.
Well, listen, the way they have overcome all those major injuries to key players, and here they are, part of that three-team pack battling for the NFC West. I'm amazed. I'm amazed that they're still alive. Great coaching. The Mac Jones filled in great. It looks like
Yep.
Brock Purdy in game two was a little more zip on the arm, getting healthier. So I'm very, very impressed by what they have done to hang in there, despite, I mean, one bad injury after another. And of course, McCaffrey's had a great year running the
Yep.
ball. He's such a great all around athlete to have out there. So you get this battle down the stretch in December of the Rams, the Seahawks, and the 49ers. You couldn't ask for anything more out west. And the Cardinals are probably starting to search for a coach. I would think that they might tear things up, that they might let Kyler Murray move on someplace and then bring in a new staff. If I had to dial up an organization that may just throw everything out, I would look at the Cardinals. They lost a lot of close games. And then they left Brissett in as their quarterback, which didn't make a lot of sense to me when you've given
Yeah.
Kyler Murray all this money. So we'll see what happens. But what a great battle. And also in the AFC West, here you've got
Yeah.
the Chiefs trying to win it for 10 straight years, and now they're
Yeah.
locked in third behind the Chargers in second and the Broncos with that great defense. And of course, can you believe the Raiders have lost 10 straight division games? 10 straight division games, okay? They are so out of it right now, Tommy. It's unbelievable. Unbelievable.
The Raiders ought to be lucky there's not relegation.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I always thought our pro league, that's the one thing I do like about the Premier League in soccer. I
Yeah.
love relegation. Okay.
So
Let
do
the little
I. It's the
guys climb up there.
best.
I thought it's the best. Oh yeah, they'd be relegated. It's just, I'm a season ticket holder and we had such great hope this year. Okay. And it just came crashing down. And we've got, we have a couple of superstars, and I feel badly for them.
Yeah.
But as a fan, you don't want to trade them. But if you were them, you might want to go to a contender. I mean, Mad Max Crosby outside of Miles Garrett is as good a defensive end as you're going to find.
Yeah.
Barnwell, the tight end, unbelievable. Anyway, you go back to the 49ers. A lot of credit goes to the front office and the coaching staff for what they've done in there this year.
Yeah, no doubt. Hey, what did you hear, or what do you know about? Because I didn't really get into it, but the Chip Kelly thing seemed kind of odd, didn't it?
Yeah, very. In fact, I actually spoke with Chip a couple of games before the Cowboys game. We had a quick chat down there, and he seemed fine. Um, the truth is, Chip was never that successful in the NFL. Let's be perfectly honest. As head coach for the Eagles, they made a little bit of a run. Then he forced Howie Roseman out, which was a huge mistake on his part. Then he got forced out. Niners, he never could get that thing going.
Yeah.
Um, and the offense of the Raiders, not good all year. However, the biggest problem, the offensive line, Tommy,
Yeah.
it's dreadful. Okay. And, you know, listen, nepotism is good if the child you hire is really good. And Pete put his son in charge of the offensive line. I got no problem. However, Washington led the Big Ten a year ago in giving up sacks. Okay, so wait a minute. Now you got the kid down here, and he's not getting the job done. So it's not good. And I was hopeful that Tom Brady would bring a little insight, especially into the quarterback position. He did try to get Matthew Stafford, and the
Yeah.
Rams would not trade him. But the truth of the matter is, you cannot be a full-time broadcaster and a part-time NFL team manager. Forget about it. Both those jobs are demanding in themselves, and you spend a lot of time. And he just did not bring much to the table for the Raiders. And as part owner, it's fine. I have a problem with that. That's nice to have around. But when he's really making the big decisions on personnel, I don't buy it. I don't buy it.
Do you think he'll have to eventually choose one or the other if he wants to be really good at being an owner?
Yeah, it's hard to say because predicting Mark Davis is difficult. As to what his thoughts might be on it. But yeah, I will. Listen, if you want to come run the Raiders, that's fine. I mean,
Yeah.
why wouldn't you choose Tom Brady? But we can't have you part time in it.
Yeah.
He showed up. He's been in a couple of games. I know one of the games he wound up in the coach's booth
Yeah, he
with
did.
and they tried to slink out of the. No, you can't do that. I mean, come on, my man. And I am a little bit curious about his Shadur Sanders um, observation. As I understand it, and my source is pretty good. He's the one who advised the Raiders not to take him. Okay, now I can understand not taking Shador in the first round. Okay, and if you're blank in the second round, you got 2 picks at the bottom of the third round. I'm thinking hard of getting a young quarterback, whether it's Shador or not. So they took 2 offensive linemen, and one of them finally got on the field last week. So I mean, listen, handling a pro football team is not easy. It is extremely difficult. I mean, it's 24/7. You get things that come out of the blue on your table and that. I don't think you can run a franchise and make the key decisions as an absentee general manager. And in effect, and I've got to listen. I got all the respect in the world for him. Covered him in college. He handled Michigan beautifully. Wasn't around him that much with the New England Patriots. And obviously, he's in the debate for the greatest quarterback of all time. Like, no question. And I think from my friends who listen to a lot more broadcasts than I do, he's improved as a broadcaster, which is great. It's fun to have around. He's Mr. Football, but that doesn't mean you can also part time run one of these teams. I don't care if it's in the NBA, Major League Baseball, National Hockey League. I'd say the same thing. You can't do it. Those are not easy jobs.
In your estimation, what makes, I mean, you've been around the broadcasting game for a long, long, long time and worked with a lot of partners. In fact, you had to drag me through a
My
few
man,
NBA games.
Tommy T.
What makes a good broadcaster?
One who listens. I'm going to go to John Madden because it amazes me that in the National Football League, no one has taken the time to really study John. Okay. John did unbelievable homework, worked very, very hard. I mean, he knew what was going on. But once the game began with Summerall, and there's an unusual player, something down on the field, Tommy, you never heard John jump in immediately. He would go, yeah. But he was waiting to watch that monitor. The camera gives you more details than your eyes. I will promise every broadcaster who ever moves to courtside or up in the booth that you're going to see things that you didn't know had happened down there. And Madden would kind of delay. I think Lou Holtz once said, "Yeah, the problem with the broadcasters is they just keep talking until they think of something to say." Well, there's a little bit of truth to that, okay?
Yes.
A little bit of truth to that. And all of us who watch these games, we have all sat in the living room or rec room or bar and said, "Shut up." You
Yeah.
know, in other words, there's far more knowledge out there amongst the fan base than there used to be back in the 70s and the 60s when the NFL first burst on the scene. Okay, and they need to take a deep breath, watch down there, because you really don't know everything that happened. Like, anyway, that would be my advice for broadcasters.
The one thing I did that I still do is when I'm calling the Warrior games or whatever, do my prep work, watch some games, and I'll write some stuff down on some cards. And then before the game, I'll leave the cards at home. And then I figure whatever I remember is worth saying. If I don't
Absolutely.
remember it, it's not worth saying. I'm not going to
Well,
try to get something in there just because I worked hard to find out this little
yeah,
nugget that may only make sense to me.
exactly. And it may only make sense before the game. I mean,
Yep.
the reason why we watch all these, we don't know the result. Okay. Well, I shouldn't say that. Some of those NBA, but whatever. Anyway, for the most part, I had to get that little dig in. I'm so unhappy with what I was reading. It's unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Oh my
Anyway,
gosh. What do you think is gonna, what do you think will come of that? Because are you talking about the Terry Rozier and the Chauncey
absolutely.
Billups and all? So the poker is one thing. The poker's separate. You guys want to play poker, but I mean, obviously you can't rig games. That's going to be a crime. But as far as like integrity of the game type stuff, where Terry Rozier was allegedly betting unders on his props, which is a player, I could easily fix that. I could just not shoot. I can take myself out of
Absolutely.
the game as Porter did. How do we, because gambling isn't going anywhere, but how do the leagues protect themselves against stuff like this when they're not going to get out of bed with FanDuel and MGM and whatnot because they're making lots of money with these guys? So they're not getting out of bed with these guys. Should they take away the props? Should they take away the under bets that you can bet? How do they kind of protect themselves?
They have to have serious discussions, Tommy. I would take away first half props across the
Okay.
board. And the reason why, if you're a great athlete in basketball, you figure you can help your buddies by winning a bet by going under, but you can still win the game and you
Yeah.
don't lose anything. Okay. Then I would have, you know, you take the stars of the game and you put an over under number on scoring, rebounding. It's hard for because people like to bet those props. I know
Yeah.
that. You have to stay on top of it. Listen, the league, in my opinion, should have been a little bit more thorough on Rozier. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, there was some evidence out there that I don't think the league did a good job. So I kind of blame it. And Chauncey Billups, that's the saddest story of all. Okay, because if alleged, he was involved in this crooked poker game, which I think all of us believe is an accurate story on the part of the FBI. Then listen, how many guys did he tell to that certain players on the Blazers were not going to play? I mean, how many times did he slip
Yeah.
that information out? You know, in other words, to me, it's the saddest story of all. Um, Hall of Famer. Uh, I'm just sick to die. Honestly, I'm going to be perfectly honest. I love the NBA. Love the NBA.
Yep.
I don't. I haven't followed it a bit since that happened, and I'm not going to until maybe the playoffs will bring me back in. But we've had and a referee I knew well, Tim Donaghy.
Yep.
Okay, I knew him well. And he admitted he was fixing over unders and spreads on games and things like that. Now we've got Porter guilty as charged.
Yep.
I'm leaning toward guilty on Rozier, as you can tell, and Chauncey Billups too. And
Yep.
it's sad. You have, especially these guys are making a lot of money, for
Lots of
playing
money.
basketball. I mean, come on. Uh, and we know they like to gamble. We know how competitive. We know how much Michael Jordan gambled on the golf course and things
Yep.
like that. Okay, um, so it's sad for me.
Yeah.
Because I really enjoyed the league and my years with it and everything. And yeah, I don't know but you put your finger on something that they have to talk about. They have to extensively talk with DraftKings and FanDuel in particular. However, Tommy, keep an eye on these poly market. I mean, there's a lot of money being bet on the prediction markets now. Okay.
Really.
Oh yeah, I'm telling you. I follow one of them. It's not legal in Texas or California. And last Sunday on the one market, I don't think there was less than 1.5 million bet on any of those games, and then it went up to 2 and 3. I mean, we're talking instantaneous money's going down. Now they are more limited on the prediction model. Okay, they they don't have as many props as the FanDuels and the DraftKings have, but there must be a serious conversation made. Especially, let's forget the NBA for a minute. Let's go to those kind of out of sight college basketball teams. Okay, they had
Yep.
some problems there last year, and you just have to keep your finger on. What these kids don't know is that the computers are going to catch them
Yep.
because the computers are going to show when there's wait a minute, why is all this money being bet here all of a sudden? I mean, and that's what went down on the prop bets. They looked at the computers. They wait a
Yeah.
minute, betting Rozier under like this in the
Yep.
first half. Where did that come from? So
Well, it's the same with the Porter one, Brent. Like I know these guys don't gamble a lot because they don't understand what moves a market and why a market should or shouldn't move. And when Jonte Porter unders, start sending up red flags or red
Yeah.
flares. And obviously, people are going to, I mean, and I say you're going to get caught because you're costing people money. The people that run
Exactly.
these organizations are going to be like, "Hey, wait,
Exactly.
you're trying to steal our money," and they're going to be on
Exactly.
top of this. So
No question. No
yeah,
question.
I
When it
thought
was,
actually. Go ahead.
go ahead. No. You thought what?
No, I thought when it moved, when gambling went legal, I told people it'd be better because there's going to be people that are paying attention even more so now stateside. I mean, there's always people paying attention, whether it be, Pinnacle or whoever. It's their money. They're going to alert somebody if they got some funny business going on there with some of their wagers. But now that it's, FanDuel, DraftKings, and it's stateside, they're not going to let people cheat them out of their money. So if anything, like if nobody's betting a damn Jonte Porter under for like 40,000 or tying him into a bunch of parts. Nobody's doing that unless they know they're gonna win.
Absolutely.
So of course I mean, you're just walking right into it. So that's why I knew they
Absolutely.
didn't know what the hell they were doing.
Yeah. And keep in mind that in the cases of DraftKings and FanDuel, those are public companies.
Yep.
I own stock in both of them. Okay. So when you go in to cheat them, you're cheating the stockholders, all of them who own. So in fact, you'll get people ask me, how do you hedge? What do you do with it? I said, buy a share of stock in FanDuel or DraftKings. I said, that's the best hedge you can do. Okay. Hang on and hope it goes up, And,
You're paying yourself, Brent. Every time you bet, you're paying yourself. It's funny. Before I let you go, I got to remind you
Sure.
of this when you're talking about Billups and Rozier and these guys that are making all this money. And I thought the same thing. I'm like, what are you guys doing? Like, how much do you really stand to gain from
Exactly.
this? I will go back to one of my favorite quotes of all time when the NBA was on strike and all the players were going to the courthouse to listen to all this stuff. And the camera caught up with legendary center Patrick Ewing. And Patrick Ewing had one of the greatest quotes of all time that endeared himself to fans everywhere, I'm sure, when he said, "Yeah, we make a lot of money, but we spend a lot of money too." Oh my, come on,
that is so true. Anytime you were in a tunnel or a parking lot when those guys showed up, oh baby, the cars that were coming in.
Oh my goodness.
Oh my man.
Brent, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it.
Anytime, Tommy. Appreciate it.
It's been
Glad to see you,
far
lad.
too long. Yeah, let's do it again. Maybe NFL
Absolutely.
playoffs or something like that. It'd be fun
Yeah,
to do.
sure.
Have a Merry Christmas.
Yeah, you too. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and remember this, Tommy T. Cash and tickets is what it's all about.
Thank you, Brent.
All right, buddy.
Merry Christmas, pal. Take it easy.